When the narcissist betrays, it might look, for a fleeting moment, like they've won. Like they walked off the stage with their shoulders back, their head high, and not a scratch on their conscience. No hesitation, no goodbye. Just gone. And if you're standing there in the aftermath, surrounded by the pieces they left behind, you might catch yourself thinking, maybe, they really did walk away clean. But friend, let me tell you something the world rarely says out loud. That isn't strength you're seeing. It's theater. It's a costume parade for the broken-hearted. That's not a soul set free. It's a prisoner putting on a parade. Betrayal doesn't elevate the narcissist. It cages them. It doesn't grant them wings. It welds chains they can't even see. And while they may strut like victors, the truth is, they've just marched themselves into a deeper prison, one built by brick every lie, every manipulation, every secret they refuse to confess. See, the betrayal, it's not just something you do. It's something that happens to you the moment you choose it. It's a fracture, not just in the relationship, but in the self. The one who betrays doesn't leave unscared. They leave infected. And the narcissist, they carry that wound like it never happened. But inside, there's a storm, a war, a truth pounding on the door they've nailed shut. Because the narcissist lives by illusion. And illusions, no matter how elaborate, are fragile things. The story must always favor them. The mirror must never crack. They must be right, righteous, irrefutable. But betrayal throws a hammer at that mirror. And somewhere, maybe just for a second, they see what they really are. And you know what they do with that glimpse of truth? They bury it. Fast. Deep, but you can't bury a spiritual infection. The soul isn't a graveyard. Shame buried alive doesn't die. It multiplies. It seeps into everything. And it changes the way they see the world. Soon, every face looks suspicious. Every silence sounds like judgment. Every kindness feels like a trap. Why? Because they know what betrayal feels like. They know what it costs. And they know what they're capable of. You betray love. And suddenly, the love doesn't feel real anymore. You destroy trust, and suddenly, trust feels like a fairy tale. So they start to live on high alert. Always scanning, always doubting. Always gripping the wheel like the crash is coming. And here's the tragedy, they don't even know they're spiraling. They think they're protecting themselves. They're managing things. But really, they're drowning in their own disguise. Guilt, when it's not confessed, doesn't evaporate. It shapeshifts. It becomes defensiveness, anger, control. The narcissist becomes obsessed with managing outcomes, guarding secrets. One lie breeds another. One cover-up becomes a lifestyle. Before long, they aren't living. They're just trying not to get caught by their own shadow. And the cruelest irony, that act they thought would give them power, that very act, becomes the chain around their neck. The betrayal that was supposed to be an escape hatch becomes a cell they carry everywhere they go. They don't wear it like guilt. No, they wear it like armor. But it's heavy. It's exhausting, and eventually it starts to crack. They don't crumble overnight. No, this isn't some cinematic collapse. It's a slow erosion. The lights inside dim little by little. Peace slips away. Joy becomes a stranger. Because when you betray someone who trusted you, someone who loved you, you tear something eternal. And it doesn't grow back the same. The narcissist tears so many pages out of their own story, they forget what the story was ever about. They chase image, how things look, not how things are. But image is missed. Try to live in it, and it disappears. And they know that. They live with that fear. Every moment is haunted by the possibility that someone might see through them. And worse, that they might see it too. So they build defenses. They create mantras. They were weak. I had to do it. I'm the real victim here. These aren't just lies they spread. They're lullabies they whisper to themselves in the dark. But the soul doesn't sleep through that. The soul remembers, and that memory becomes tension, paranoia, anger, the kind of anger that makes them lash out at nothing, snap at kindness, doubt loyalty. Because when you burn the bridge of trust, you start to believe the whole world is made of fire, real love, out of reach, peace, extinct, foreign. And that brings us full circle. In trying to protect their pride, the narcissist destroys the only things that could have healed them: vulnerability, intimacy, redemption. The mask they used to hide behind becomes a cage they can't break out of. And the longer they wear it, the more terrifying it is to remove. Because behind it, they fear there's nothing left. Nothing but silence and shame. So if you've been betrayed, and you're wondering if they got away with it, let me tell you something sacred. They didn't. They might have slipped past people, dodged conversations, rewritten history, but they can't outrun the mirror. They can't run from nightfall. When the crowd goes home, When the spotlight dims, when it's just them and the dark. They're face to face with the one truth they've spent a lifetime avoiding. Betrayal doesn't set the narcissist free, it sentences them. And no matter how long they pretend otherwise, that truth will wait. Because the soul always remembers. See, it doesn't work the way people think it does. Not when someone lives outside the boundaries of truth, decency, and real soul, deep integrity. Closure. That doesn't show up for someone who's spent their life building a kingdom on lies, and calling it a castle of light. When the narcissist betrays, it isn't just the relationship they fracture. They betray something far more sacred, their own reflection, their own humanity. They betray the very thing that could have saved them. And here's what the world doesn't always understand: what comes next isn't peace. It's a spiral. Not loud, not immediate, but steady, like the quiet pull of gravity pulling them further from everything real. They can't say they were wrong. That's not a muscle they've learned to move. Because to admit a fault would be to crack the mirror. And for the narcissist, that mirror is everything. It's where they live, it's where they hide, it's who they pretend to be. So they hustle. Oh, they hustle hard. A new admirer, a new stage, a new applause to replace the silence. They don't heal, they distract, they don't reflect, they perform. And maybe they charm a new circle, find fresh flattery, chase the next dopamine hit, but with every round of applause, the emptiness gets louder. Because now, to keep the illusion alive, they've got to up the stakes. The lies have to be smoother, the masks more convincing, the game harder to play. And soon, betrayal becomes routine, not a choice anymore, but a reflex, a system, a treadmill with no stop button. Different characters, same script. That's why they repeat their patterns like clockwork. Or why the same drama reappears with a new cast. Not because they're blind to the damage, but because admitting one act of wrong would unravel the entire myth they've spent years rehearsing. And that kind of unraveling feels like death to them, so they double down. They keep reaching, keep posing, keep grabbing at approval with hands that can't hold peace. And while the world might still see them at the party, still hear their name in passing, something holy inside is dimming, the soul, fading. Their joy, fleeting, explosive one moment, silent the next. And real friendship, it's surface level at best. Transactional, conditional, staged. Eventually, they're surrounded, but not by connection. No, they're surrounded by fear, by exhaustion, by people who walk on eggshells, or worse, walk away quietly and never return. And the heartbreaking part, they know. In that place deep beneath the makeup and the show and the noise, where the lights don't reach, they know. They feel the ache of disconnection. They sense that what they've lost can't be replaced with applause. That the doorway to authenticity has narrowed. That the road back is overgrown with every lie they told to keep their mask on. That's not just emotional damage. That's spiritual decay. Not a collapse like a house in a storm, but a slow, internal rot. A soul corroding every time they ignore the quiet voice inside. Every time they bury guilt instead of facing it. Every time they run from the mirror. Because make no mistake, the narcissist was made for more. Made for truth. Made for courage. Made to love and be loved without disguise. But that version of them, the version that could have been, is fading. And what's left? A mimicry. A hollow version of a life. Craving praise, allergic to peace. So next time it looks like the narcissist is thriving, remember this: they didn't move forward. They just dragged their wreckage with them. They brought their private war into the next chapter. And now they're unraveling. Quietly, steadily, painfully. And if we're going to talk about that unraveling, if we've got to talk about shame, not the shallow kind that blushes and passes. I'm talking about soul, deep shame. The kind that knows a sacred line has been crossed, that something holy has been violated. And when that kind of shame comes, we stand at a sacred fork in the road. We either face it, or we run. The narcissist. They run, every time, because shame doesn't whisper, it demands, it asks for humility, it calls for truth. And the narcissist survives on denial. They can't swallow that medicine. So instead they carry shame like a shadow. Never acknowledged, never assessed, but following. Whispering, the tapping on the windows of their self-worth. You won't see it from the outside. From the outside it still looks clean. Still looks confident. Still looks like control. But it's a stage play. A dress rehearsal for a role they no longer fit into. Inside they're trembling. Because the lie is catching up. And the truth is patient. They know what they've done. And even worse, they know they won't admit it. That they can't. And here's the thing: you can't heal what you won't name. You can't change what you refuse to see. So they stuff it down. Under pride, under blame, under they deserved it. Under I had no other option. But stuffed down shame is radioactive, it leaks. It poisons. It starts twisting their worldview. Makes them defensive, cold, paranoid. They flinch at honesty. They lash out at warmth. They push away love before love can call them out. Because everything, every angry outburst, every dramatic escape, every whisper campaign, is a defense against one soul-breaking question. What if I'm not who I say I am? Shame is a mirror. And for the brave, that mirror is sacred. It leads to healing, to wholeness. But the narcissist, they smash the mirror. They think that if they destroy the reflection, they won't have to face the truth. But the truth doesn't go away. It just waits. Quietly, with mercy, with judgment, with open arms, and sometimes with fire. And one day, the noise will fade. The lights will dim. And the truth will still be standing there, is saying it's time. And here's the painful irony, friend. The tragedy wrapped in pride. The one thing that could have saved the narcissist is the very thing they keep throwing away. Accountability. If they could just face that mirror, just once, with trembling honesty, they might find redemption staring back. But they won't. They can't, because that would mean the mask has to fall, and they've grown too afraid of what might be left behind. So they carry it. The weight, like a ghost tethered to their ankle, whispering in the silence, following them from room to room, from smile to spotlight. Always there. Never resting. And that weight, that's the consequence. Not some angry mob, not public shame, but that quiet, invisible burden of a soul that knows it sold itself short, and still refuses to turn around. This prison they're in, it wasn't built by anyone else. They no courtroom locked them in. They did it themselves, one denial at a time, one lie at a time, one betrayal too many. Brick by brick, they chose it, and now they live in it. So if you're remembering that moment, the moment the narcissist looked you in the eye and still chose to betray you, don't for a second imagine they escaped justice. Just because the world claps, just because the curtain hasn't fallen, doesn't mean peace found them. Because real shame doesn't need a headline, it doesn't need a trial. It already lives there. Beneath the surface, beneath the grin, beneath the stories they tell. Some prisons don't come with bars. Some sentences don't come from judges. Some punishments are spiritual, and they echo in the places no one else can see. And that's where the narcissist lives now, not in freedom, but in a sentence. A slow motion unraveling, no matter how loud the applause may sound. They didn't just burn a bridge when they betrayed love. They burned their own capacity to cross one again. They scorched their own road back to intimacy. And yes, they'll chase the feeling. They'll try new faces, new admiration, new flashes of affection. But none of it fills. None of it sticks. Because when trust is gone inside, you can't build anything real outside. They may sound sure. They may look certain. But the show has become mechanical. Every hug, rehearsed. Every compliment calculated. Every smile, a survival tactic. They know how to demand loyalty, but they don't know how to give it. They know how to perform love, but they can't feel it. Because somewhere deep, they know the truth. They're not who they pretend to be. And even deeper, they know they don't deserve what they once had. But instead of facing it, they bury it. Under charm, under deflection, they were weak. Or, I had no choice. And instead of growing, they run, hustle, escape. Escape from what? From themselves. And that's what makes their world so desolate. So cold, so counterfeit. They might be surrounded by people, but they're alone. Alone in the performance. Alone in the lie. Alone with the ache that says, this isn't real anymore. The cruelest part. They thought betrayal would make them powerful. They thought walking away from truth, love, and responsibility would make them untouchable. But it cost them everything, because love, real love, is where life happens. Trust is what gives it depth, and intimacy. Intimacy is what turns existence into meaning. And by betraying all of that, they lost the very pieces that make life worth living. So if you're ever tempted to wonder, what did they lose when they lost me? Let me make it plain. They didn't just lose you. They lost their access to real. They lost the bridge back to who they could have been. They lost the version of themselves that could have actually learned to love for real. But here's where it gets holy. Their betrayal does not define your worth. Let me say that again. Louder, deeper, clearer. Their betrayal does not define your worth. That voice in your head that says you were too soft, too trusting, too open, that's not your voice. That's the residue of their shame trying to sit in your soul. Don't let it. You showed up with your whole heart in a world that hides behind filters and fear. You loved without a script. You gave what most people only pretend to offer. And yes, the narcissist tried to siphon that light. But don't confuse being used with being wrong. You weren't wrong for loving. You were rare. And now you stand at a crossroad. You have a sacred choice. A soul-deep invitation. You can choose to let go of their shame. You can choose healing, without hardening. You can move forward, not with bitterness, but with boldness. You can still love. Not blindly. Not foolishly. But with the kind of strength that only comes after your heart's been broken and still believes in beauty. Because strength isn't shutting down. Strength is staying soft in a world that tried to turn you to stone. No, victory isn't watching the narcissist fall. It's watching yourself rise. It's reclaiming the laughter they tried to mute. It's building a life they no longer get to enter. A life rich with realness, with light, with peace, the very things they're starving for. And here's the final truth I want you to carry, not just today, but into every tomorrow. Your worth was never determined by their treatment. Your worth lives in your ability to choose light after darkness. To choose love after betrayal. To choose life, fully and fiercely and freely, and that is the kind of freedom the narcissist will never know.